Warning, I swear a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first Library of Ruina book club. I don't know how long this game is, and therefore I don't know how long this series will go on for, or indeed how many books there are. But I said I'd do it. I do enjoy producing a reading series because they're kind of easier to make, funnily enough. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to delve into the lore of the game and also be provided with a bit more context for future events. So I plan to do a stage per reading video. So we'll do Canard today, Urban Myth next time, Urban Legend after that, Urban Plague after that. And basically I'll be keeping ahead of the lore in-game. I'll always be a new list of books to read, probably, because I tend to get through these fairly quickly. I don't know, we'll see. There are difficulty spikes and stuff, but I'm confident that, it'll just be interesting. It'll be kind of like the Abno readings. I'm going to treat it much the same way, using my own music and stuff like that, where we can just sort of sit and discuss the characters in question. Yeah, see, there ain't even that much. Yeah, these will be nice and concise. Okay, well, let's begin with the rats, shall we? Want to hear a secret? This is kind of embarrassing, but I used to have a dream once, like Pete does now. Yeah, I know, I'm still younger than him with a long future ahead of me, but what could I do? Life's too rough for that. Others say that rats are a pathetic bunch who are too incompetent to join even the smallest syndicate, let alone a wing. Filthy losers who feed on junk and leftovers, not making any effort to change. Back when I was a young kid, I didn't like that. I thought I was better than those rats, so I decided to get into an examinee town. Little did I know they'd be the one choice I'd regret the most. I begged and nagged at my parents, wanting to achieve that stupid dream. How'd it go, you ask? Seems you're just as stupid, aren't you? I wouldn't be hanging out with these folks if I made it, now would I? What I'm saying is, dreaming won't do jack shit for you. They didn't end up here because they gave up trying. Hell, they wouldn't have set foot on this gutter in the first place if they had what it takes to achieve their dreams. You get it now? Pete's a huge idiot. Well, that explains why Lenny looks so depressed half the time, is that they actually had ambitions to do more with themselves, although I imagine most rats do. These are the bottom of the bottom, and that they aren't there because they like it, they're there because they have no choice. But yeah, poor Lenny. I still like the voice I gave them though, I thought it was very funny. Not as good as the Korean voice acting, no, but I thought it was funny. We'll continue with Mang-Chi. Did you know there's grades for each alley in the back streets? Funny, ain't it? Trash and a trash can are grading each other. The parts that are under the protection of a syndicate, office, or association are pretty safe. Sweepers can't raid those streets easily. Putting the people who live there in a different grade from those who don't, though, is pointless, honestly speaking. Sure, it's a bit safer over there, but we're talking about the back streets, get it? You know what's funnier? Even kids would group themselves according to what part of the streets they live in. They'd even shun the others whose clothes or manner didn't fit their turf style. I had no choice but to accept this sad truth. You wondering how things were in the alleys I lived? Couldn't afford to pay protection fees to a syndicate, so the sweepers came down at night and collected most of my neighbors. I had to witness them take chunks of flesh out of my parents and brothers while they were still breathing. Don't pity me though, my story ain't nothing special around here. Mang-Chi was my favorite of the three. I liked Mang-Chi. He seemed calmer, a little smarter, just generally quite cool. Obviously had a shitty life, as shitty as anyone else's. Don't know what else I was expecting really, but tragic, yes, of course. It is for all rats. Let's get to the leader himself, I'm sure he has things to say. There's not a lot of peeps who hang around in the back streets alone. It's because that's just madness. Weak and dowdy folks gotta band together to survive. Get into a small syndicate or anything and make a living somehow. Some ignorant fool makes a scene in the back streets on their own, they're just making themselves a target as soon as others notice they're alone. That's why we move in groups. We're called rats for a reason. We crawl about the dark in packs and jump at prey for the chance to bite them apart when we spot one. So you're wondering if we rats have any dreams? I guess belonging to a proper syndicate, if any. We're just too tacky and amateurish to be called one. We hate being bound to rules, so hell will freeze over before one of us joins an office, and no rat I know would move to an examinee town and study for wing entrance exams. Funny story, Lenny. Those nerds at examinee towns ain't too different from rats like us. We're all dreaming silly dreams that'll never come true with our petty skills. An office, a wing, a syndicate, or whatever. Think it's an easy task to belong to a decent group? People just accept what they got and live on. But still, I wanted to have a dream. And now you've fulfilled your dream because you're no longer a rat, now you're a book. You're not even a book, actually, you're a page. These people are pages. I know it says like, oh yes, this person has become a book and all that. And that is a thing, but when it comes to their skills, we're boiling these individuals down to just pages. Like, the rest of that book is barely even considered by that point. All we want to know is how good they fight, how they fight, and some of their notable attacks. Aside from that, the rest of it's inconsequential, and that seems to be a bit of an allegory for the rats as well. Unfortunate. But let's move on to what is perhaps only slightly above rats, and that's Yun's office. Poor bastards. Especially Finn. It's been a while, sis. Actually, I talked to you some time ago. By myself, of course. It sounds a bit lonely, but I'm fine. Today's not going to be the same as the days before. I have good news. I finally joined an office run by this guy named Yun and officially became a fixer. You're proud to see your little precious little brother grow up and make it, aren't you? Isn't it cool? I told you there's no need to worry about me. Oh, about Yun's office. I think it's a really nice place. No, I'm not lying. Our operator, Yun, is a bit cold, but he teaches me a lot of things. And there's also Eri, who's my senior. I've yet to be friends with her, but she seems like a good person too. For now, they're giving me small jobs, like searching for lost cats. Maybe they're worried I'm too inexperienced to handle tougher stuff. It's not really fancy, but if I start out with small tasks like this and work up slowly, I'm gonna be a great fixer one day, yeah? My heart is already pounding with excitement. When I become a proud and dashing fixer, I'll buy a Nest migration ticket and get a nice new home for you. I could buy my gear at a workshop thanks to your help and all that. Though that's not all. You always looked after me, sis. It's kind of embarrassing to talk about this. Anyway, don't worry about me and do the things you want to do. I know you were always too busy caring for me to pursue your own interests. You offered to give me a prosthetic body or even a minor procedure the last time we met, but I'm doing fine without any of that stuff. And you got money to earn for yourself. I'm tired, so I'll be going now. I ran around the whole town chasing a cat all day. Night, sis. I hope we see each other again. Sorry, Finn, but Jesus Christ, you're easy pickings. And this kind of goes back to what the rats were saying. He was on his own. Easy pickings. Anyone who's on their own isn't going to last long. Even being part of Yun's office, they never sent anyone with him, really. There were the two fixers who were with him at the start of his story. You know, we dealt with them and then we dealt with Finn. But they clearly weren't with him, you know, they just happened to be sent out on an assignment on that occasion. I've noticed that a lot of these offices and stuff have kind of squads. Even rats, syndicates, tend to operate in groups, but Finn was just kind of meshed in with those two for the purpose of a job. They fucked off, he went back to the office. Yeah, sorry, Finn, but Roland may be a washed-up fixer, but he's still a fixer, and you were no match. You have lots of things to prepare for before you can jump into the fixer business, starting with choosing equipment. You'll need clothes to protect your bodily accessories, etc. But before any of that, body augmentation comes first. There's no point having any masterful skills or fancy equipment if your body can't keep up, you know? And training hard isn't going to do it. There's a limit to training your body, and the fittest body is still no match for mechanical prosthetics or bionic organs. You gotta be able to keep your body intact to do anything, so you're pretty much forced to spend a fortune on it. There's a ton of methods to enhance your body. Exoskeletons, bionic surgeries, nano tattoos, prosthetic body parts, you name it. Deciding what workshop tech to employ is up to preference and purpose. Some would want insane muscular strength that could let them carry a power pole one-handed, and others would want ludicrous speed, quick enough to skip over multiple blocks in a split second. It's so diverse, I could go on forever. You need any ability, they've got you covered. The only hurdle is money. In the city, money is what gets you power. That's why the first thing we notice when we assess our foes is how much they've spent on their bodies. Oh, of course, some technologies patented by closed groups like certain syndicates or wings are hard to get your hands on even if you have all the cash in the world. Just look at me though, it took a teensy little procedure for me to lift this humongous weapon with one hand. This is the kind of power you can get, you see. Body augmentation is more of a necessity than an option these days, so you want to study up on that. You don't want to stay a weakling when everyone else is getting their augmentations, now do you? So this entry feels like it was said to Finn, because Finn rejected the bodily augmentations, even though he really did not have the skills to back himself up without them, so that was unfortunate, but cool. I like the idea of bodily augmentations. I like mechanical augmentations in all fiction, even though often it turns out to be kind of horrific, and in real life, indeed, it probably wouldn't work very well, but I've always liked it as a fictional concept, especially playing some kind of RPG where I can sort of enhance my stats by having augmentations, see Cyberpunk or Deus Ex, you know? But it's cool, I had no idea she had any augmentations. That's the quality of them in this game, I guess, is that they're almost imperceptible. You have to have a trained eye to keep an eye out for them, and I always thought she had quite a big weapon, though I've never seen her wield it with one hand. But then again, we fought her ages ago, so I don't quite remember. But yeah, she, much like Finn, was fairly unremarkable, though I remember her putting up a decent fight alongside Yun. So there's that. We'll go to Yun's office fixer and then we'll finish on Yun. The society of fixers is built entirely upon meritocracy. The greater you are, the higher you can climb. On the other hand, if you don't have the capability, you should be thankful for any org that accepts you and stay low. The thing is, capability can mean many things. For some, it could be physical strength, and others might have superior intellect. It seems kinda unfair to me that they can make arbitrary evaluations of a concept that can be taken in so many different ways. Not that I think I have some hidden talent that deserves a better grade or anything. I do feel a bit upset, but I think I'm at the right place. The jobs I usually do are looking for lost cats at night. You can tell how low my spot is, yeah? I'm not a huge fan of the jobs I'm doing right now, of course. I mean, sure, I wouldn't say no to some flashier requests. I just accepted to carry on with my life. And of course, you can tell how low grade this fixer is simply by looking at them, with shabby, drab clothes, and that's a bat that they're using. Like, a bat is a good weapon, I think, but it is just a bat, you know? Like, even Eri has a fucking chainsword, and so does Finn. Finn, well, that's a jagged sword. I don't know if it's actually a chainsword, but it's a little flashier, and this is just a bat. It's just a fucking bat. It's nothing, although, to be fair, Yun doesn't have anything, but we'll get to that. But I find the concept of fixers and their whole organizational thing fascinating. I think I mentioned it in a recent episode, can't remember which one, of Ruina, but I would love to play a game where you do actually get to build your a fixer office or fixer organization from the ground up, or a syndicate, or what have you. Maybe even starting out as a rat. Like, I'd appreciate a game like that if there was an element of you being in it, and you would have to make a character, so that you would start off as a rat. And you would have to lead your office to first become an office, like you're not even an office yet, you'd have to find people to become an office, and then lead your office to greater and greater heights, working for more prominent and affluent organizations and syndicates and wings and the thumb, the hand, whatever. All these people working up in your own way, taking the jobs you want to take, accepting the foes you will inevitably make as a result of these requests, and carving out your own place in the city. I think the city is a fantastic setting for a variety of interesting gameplay styles. Whether or not we'll get them is anyone's guess. You know, Project Moon aren't that fucking big. They're doing the best they can, and they do tend to focus more on narrative-fueled gameplay rather than something which is more career-based. You know, like your Battle Brothers or Battletech or stuff like that. But I still would love to see something along those lines. I'd love it if perhaps Project Moon could even outsource the development of the game. Perhaps like find a dev who's good at like management and RPGs and stuff like that, with less focus on story, and be like, we'll give you the story and narrative details, the background surrounding the world, but make a sim, right? Just make a sim where a player can become a character in the game and work themselves up making an office. I think it's an interesting idea, but of course there are a million interesting things you could do with this concept. A third-person action game would be fantastic in the world of Ruina. There are so many gameplay styles you could go for. RTS and Grand Strategy, 4X, this stuff could work for this. There are so much potential, and I hope that Project Moon gets to realize a lot of it, because, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff here, but I respect the fact that they are more focused on narrative-focused games, rather than the games I tend to play, which are probably usually less narrative-focused and more primary gameplay loop-centric, which isn't me saying that I think, you know, that's better than narrative-driven stories. It's just those are the ones I tend to play for some reason. I still love a good story, hence why I'm enjoying Ruina so much, but I have really gone off on a tangent. Yeah, these fixers are garbage. Let's move on to Yun. Finn was bungling in many ways. He had no talent, he refused to take modification procedures, all he armed himself with was a tiny weapon. I didn't exactly dislike him, though. They say a delicate person like him is nothing short of pathetic here, but he had passion, regardless, and he was going to be our colleague from now on. Besides, it's not too common to see such a passionate fellow in this grueling mess of a city. He was an interesting one. Then why did I exploit him? Exploit is a rather harsh word to describe it, if you ask me. A sloppy kid like him would have gotten killed anyway, abducted in the back streets and fading away while witnessing his innards getting ripped from his body. And that's one of the tamer examples I could give. In this city, worse things are happening here and there on a daily basis. If he didn't die there, he could have faced a much more terrible fate somewhere else. Isn't that right? Never mind. This is all but rationalization. Think what you want. So, Yun is cold. Not necessarily cruel, because we've seen the difference. You know, I think by the time this goes up, we will have met the musicians of Bremen, right? That's cruel. Yun is cold. He doesn't intentionally do bad things or intentionally make people suffer, or more to the point, he doesn't do it to make people suffer. He doesn't exploit people for the sake of exploiting them. But he has a very pragmatic view of life in the city, and this makes sense as a fairly minor office, because, yeah, he's still fucking no one, but it takes some work to get there. And as a result, he would have at least some experience in dealing with life in the city and the jobs involved with being a fixer. I don't know what grade he would actually be in law, but I imagine he would have gone at least above, 9 or 8. He would have done some decent jobs to have been able to afford his own office, so he does know what's going on. It's also funny that he criticizes Finn for having a small weapon when Yun is literally uses fisticuffs. Like, he's literally a hand-to-hand combatant, and that's why I picked his style for my character for a while, because to be fair, he looks really cool. The coat with the suit, one glove on, one glove off. I do love a good unarmed fighting style, has to be said. I've played some boxing games. I do like fighting games and stuff, and I like a character who does fight with their hands. But Yun is nothing special, and Yun knew he was nothing special. Yun was fully aware that he was nothing special. In fact, he seemingly regarded Finn as being more special than himself, but unfortunately Finn was not special in the ways that are required to actually do a half-decent job in this city. Finn was doomed from the start, as Yun says, and Yun, as rationalization, points out that he probably gave Finn a fairly easy way out. Being defeated at the library by Roland, who is not a character who plays with his food, was probably one of the nicer ways Finn could have gone. Is it still tragic? Yes. Is Yun still heartless and kind of an asshole? Yes. Absolutely. But you know how it is in the city. It's not... Good people are rare. It's usually just different degrees of asshole, which is how you would describe people. Unfortunate, but it is the way of things. We move on to the Brotherhood of Iron. These guys will be interesting. We'll go Arnold, Conster, and then go up to Mo. I want to save the more prominent characters for last in each case because, it makes sense. So we'll start with Arnold. The city consists of 25 nests and 25 districts of the back streets that surround those nests. 25, huh? And countless offices and syndicates reside in the back streets. You know what's a surefire way for a syndicate to make a name for itself among all the competitors? The simplest method is office raiding. You literally storm into an office and wreak havoc on it. You never know who will be the winner until you fight. It can stop at a good beating and one side surrendering, but some syndicates raid offices out of pure boredom and kill everyone. Each syndicate has its own way of operation. It goes without saying that the syndicate has more fame to gain out of raiding a high-grade office filled with seasoned fixers. So the officers have to stay sharp at all times, but you also have to watch it. If you misjudge your opponents, you'll end up dead before you can try anything. So this kind of feeds into my desire, as it were, for a Project Moon game set in the city where you do establish an office and build yourself up, is that there are threats. Syndicates would look at you, at your little office, and be like, well, that's a fucking easy target, so you'd have to defend yourself. Defending the office would be necessary as well. If you're establishing such a hostile place, with such a fucked up way of running things and so many interesting characters, just screams for the opportunity for these kinds of games. It could be a truly involving experience. I know this isn't everyone's type of gameplay preference, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, this is a dream. This is something I would desperately want. I would love it to pieces. I don't think you'd even have to do too much in the way of assets. You can keep this art style, the nuggets as it were. You can keep it like this. You could keep Ruina's gameplay style if you want to for the purposes of combat. A lot of this could be used, just, a different foundation of gameplay, as it were, a different backdrop, a different setting. But I'm not going to wax lyrical about this too much. What's your favorite food? That's the question I used to ask the most when I still had a human body. I love eating. Talking about food was a huge delight for me. We would share each other's tastes and preferences and sometimes head to a restaurant for a meal just like that. But now, my body's a machine, as you can see. I can't taste anything anymore. Thanks for pointing that out. Mo told me to stop dreaming about it. I still want to try more delicious food, though. Hot and flavorful, spicy and sweet, stuff like that. I guess this body's too cheap to restrain delusional thoughts like this. If we get more money and change our bodies to new ones, then maybe I'll be able to stop these thoughts from getting in the way of my work? Because this is the tragedy, of course, it was discussed, I think, between Roland and Angela, but selling off your body and getting a mechanical one, it does genuinely seem like a good idea, because the strength of a mechanical body is likely to surpass an organic one in most cases, and indeed, that is what Eri said. But there are sacrifices. You know, shortcuts always carry a price, even if it's not ones you'd expect. And for instance, the cost of selling your body and having a mechanical one is that you're barely fucking human anymore. Now, I don't see that as a bad thing in the terms of the actual choice itself. If you want to be a robot dude, be a robot dude. I don't fucking care. But you do give up a lot of things. The ability to eat, being a prime example, you know, like, there are many things that you lose that you don't tend to think about if you're no longer human. The feeling of a hot shower, a cold drink, good food, other things, which I don't think I need to describe in detail, you get the idea. The sun on your skin. And you throw these all away for the ability to survive and maybe even thrive in the city, but once you've gotten to the top, having done this, is it even worth it? Can you get your brain put into a new body where you could actually feel? Is that a thing that happens in this game, in this setting? Because if not, there's not much point getting there, really, is there? It'd be like if I built this channel off of recording Fortnite and Apex and COD. It's like, yeah, maybe I could have gotten big a lot quicker, but would it have been worth it? I'd have been stuck here. Right now, instead of reading this and conjecturing over a fascinating narrative setting, I'd be playing COD. And getting, I don't know, camping with a shotgun or something. It's just not for me. And I don't think taking a shortcut to power is the way to go. But these guys are desperate, and they might not have even really felt like they had a choice. It's do this or die in some cases. It's not so simple. But is it worth it? I frankly don't recommend replacing your entire body with a machine, especially with a cheap one. Aside from basic issues such as vulnerability to damage and creaky noises, cheap prosthetic bodies compromise too much. You're basically giving up all the joys of life. Can you imagine? You can't taste anything when you eat delicious food, and you can't feel the softness and coziness of a good bed. You can't feel anything get stuck in your body, be it a piece of paper or a knife. The head remembers those feelings, but you can't experience them again. There are ways to overcome it though. You can buy a desire stimulation chip and plug it into your brain, inject medications, or use other methods. They're just absurdly expensive. You're better off saving up for a more expensive prosthetic body if you really want your senses back. High quality, pricey bodies come with sensory organs. As I always say, it's all about money in this world. So at the very least, you could get a prosthetic body that does give you your senses back. So what these guys were saying in their section in the story is that they were just using these shit bodies until they could make enough money to get good ones, and then, as Conster was repeatedly saying, he'd be able to eat food again, and obviously Mo agrees, like, just keep going until you have enough money to actually upgrade to a decent one, and then you're good again. But the thing is, as we saw, these shit bodies are not good enough to get there. They're just not, because we absolutely trashed these guys. They didn't stand a chance. They're at the bottom of the barrel, they're in Canard, for fuck's sake. No chance. Between these guys and Finn, you get... oh, that's the rats. Between those guys and Finn, you get the two ends, the two extremes, and neither of which work. You know? Like, Finn refuses to modify himself at all, which puts him at a massive disadvantage. In any scrap, basically. Any fight he gets in, he is in a huge disadvantage because the other fixers and syndicates and whatnot of the city are not going to restrict themselves on that front, so they already have a physical advantage. Whereas the Brotherhood of Iron went too far in the opposite direction. They replaced everything with robotics, and they weren't even very good ones, so they were screwed from the beginning. They made themselves miserable and weren't even that strong to boot. Lose-lose. It's middle ground. Moderation is everything. And now the Hook office. These guys will be interesting, I'm sure. Back when we were still part of the Killer Syndicate, we got a client asking us to hunt some crazed syndicate. They were shaking like a drenched rat as they came in. I suppose they were scared of places like this. They asked us to catch the wicked criminals kidnapping people in the parts of the streets they live in. We had one question though. It's nice that they're giving us a job, but why ask a syndicate like ours instead of going to the SVI or other offices that are better suited for handling public safety issues? And they said they did try to request an office at first with the money raised by their neighbours, but then the office asked for a ridiculous sum of money, claiming that there's much preparation they need to take before they can uproot a whole syndicate. Poor fellow begged for help, but the office personnel didn't even flinch. Well, money is the only thing that gets fixers moving, so that's understandable, and I think their friend recommended us to them while they were looking for another way, if I remember it right. Introduced us as a trustworthy syndicate, so they came all the way to our hideout. Trustworthy syndicate. It's a shame, really. I can still remember the client's head staring daggers at me, hanging from the top of a power pole. The syndicate paid us more cash. What could I do about it? We don't write official contracts or anything, so the highest bidder gets our favor. No use glaring at me like that, pal. We were told by a new client to hang their head and guts out in the street, to make an example of them. Those sick fucks even used some kind of singularity to keep him alive. Poor bastard. Should have requested an office in the first place somehow. So this area of syndicate work, this is like, it seems like with the Hook office especially, this is where syndicates and offices, fixer offices, start to meld and mesh and appear to be the worst possible outcome for the common person. Because they're cheaper than normal fixer offices, which makes them more tempting, but much less scrupulous and more likely to stab you in the back. And much more vicious about it as well, and less worried about doing anything particularly vicious if they are hired to do so. That's fucked. I didn't know there was a singularity that keeps people alive. That's even more fucked. But you know, if you went with my idea, if you wanted to have your evil choice as it were, you could play it however you wanted. You could be like the Hook office and be a bunch of fucking assholes who take all the money they can. Options. Just take this and Battle Brothers it a bit. It'll be great. I will harp on about this, but I'll at least try and keep things moving. There's a huge variety of workshops. As diverse as syndicates and fixers are, weapons need individuality to stand out in this day and age. Old-fashioned swords or guns won't stand a chance against modern weapons loaded with new technology, I bet. From cheap and common gear to bionic equipment like the one Tyen's using, to equipment with ridiculous abilities that's almost indistinguishable from magic. Don't get too hyped though. More options means you need to be more cautious about choosing the right one for you. If you had the time and money, you could buy them all and test them out at your leisure, but we have neither, do we? Don't just buy the things others recommend without doing your own research though. That's one of the stupidest things you can do. Might fit them, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll have a good time with it. Still confident that you can wield them well? Get real, buddy. Workshop equipment is not your average weaponry, so before you choose your weapon, observe others carefully. See if any workshop products might suit you. Having keen eyes is all part of our skills. Guess why people choose us in our office out of all the tough fixers out there. So I think discovering the workshop, as it were, was what made me think that this setting, you can make a game like Bloodborne for it quite easily, because the trick weapons in Bloodborne, I'm sure they've got stuff like that in here. For sure, in fact they do. They have the rifle spear in this game, albeit more technologically advanced, but let me show you. We'll use me as an example. Yeah, I've done some grinding in between part 5 and part 6. Part 6 is going to be interesting. But yeah. That's a gun spear. And I'm sure that's not the only kind of trick weapon this game could have available. There are many different movesets you could have for a Bloodborne/DMC style game in this setting, right? There's Tyen's moveset. There's katanas in case you want those. There's chains. You know, that seemed out of sync because I just moused over the wrong one. There's guns as well, hybrid ranged melee styles, axes, fists. Fists are totally an option. Zweihanders, I think that's a mace. Whatever the fuck these guys were using. You can go machete, there's loads of options. You could totally do this shit, it would be incredible. I know I'm harping on about this stuff too much, and to be honest, I am just sitting here on the whole and just enjoying Library of Ruina for what it is. What Library of Ruina is already great on its own, and I'm already enjoying it immensely, but my excitement and joy from playing this game just gets me excited for the various potential game genres that could be applied to it. There's so much potential, there are so many possibilities, there's so many things you could do in this setting. You could go any direction, turn-based RPGs, action RPGs, third-person action games, strategy games, management games. I'm sure you could even fucking Blood Bowl it and put in a sport game if you felt like it. You can. You could do whatever. The city is simultaneously detailed and yet leaves so many details unspecified. You could do anything with the setting. This could be something huge. It probably won't be. Project Moon just aren't that big enough, and indeed the fan base and this game franchise in general are just not big enough. But the potential, my guys, there is so much. This has ceased to be a book club. It's just me talking about games. I'm so sorry, but I just get so excited for it. It's not entirely impossible for a syndicate member to engage in fixer work or vice versa. It's a pretty common occurrence, actually. If you have the skills to back yourself up, multiple organizations will make sweet offers to recruit you. What matters the most here is the relationships you've built. Your fate depends on the things you've done, or karma, in other words. We didn't start out as fixers at the beginning. No, we're in fact part of a homicidal syndicate. Just see how intimidating we look. We used to be Murder for Hire in District 23. It was a small syndicate ran by Naoki, I, and a few others, but our influence started to expand bit by bit since the young and talented Tyan joined us. Our current boss was originally the representative of an office we raided. They visited us once, they heard that we shredded their fixes brutally and hung their ragged corpses on the street like scarecrows, said they'll need people like us. I thought they were just freaky with weird tastes, but looking back, now I get why they chose us. It's a strategy. Each office does all kinds of sensational stunts to attract the attention of potential clients in this oversaturated market. They hold radical events such as pay for one request, get one free, or group weapons into different grades and offer a free exchange for one of their most expensive ones. And the gullible clients fall for it. They don't actually know how much more that 1+1 deal actually costs, or how it has limitations on the grades of requests you make. They don't bother looking up to check if the top grade weapons are in fact used ones. Seems our boss didn't want to add lies to this industry that's already full of filthy schemes, but they still had to catch people's eyes somehow, and this is the result. Hire guys like us and proudly advertise it. Fixers from a former killer syndicate will tear things up for you. You can count on us. Hang up a slogan like this, people get hooked up. If it suits their tastes, that is. So I do like this idea in the lore where it's like, well, you know, if there's a really, really powerful band of criminals nearby, why not just basically let them go legit, right? Hire them. It's like, hey, do you want to just be criminals and thugs who only make money from, like, whatever they can get their hands on, or do you want reliable pay doing the same thing you were basically doing anyway? It makes a lot of sense. And it definitely makes sense for the Hook office because these guys clearly have not come far from when they were a syndicate. They still are a syndicate, basically. They're just they're paid to do stuff now instead of just getting their money from looting and murdering and mugging and whatnot. These guys are very cool, I have to say, the Hook office. Like, they weren't very strong, of course they weren't, their early game, but it was a cool concept and I liked meeting them. Last up, we have Tyan himself. How's my new weapon? Isn't it sick? Union Co. is the go-to workshop brand for ready-made bionic weapons and equipment. Their prices are pretty reasonable compared to most procedures and workshop weapons too. On top of superb performance, you can replace or attach them easily without having to worry about allergies, so it's pretty damn handy, you see. Oh, bionic equipment is pretty simple. It's like a weapon you attach to your body. It's not at all scary or dangerous, though it could feel a bit awkward when you use it for the first time. In my case, I accidentally ripped Naoki's clothes while walking by and cut my own cheek when I flailed it out of frustration. But now that I've gotten used to it, I feel as if I have 3 hands. If you have trouble finding the perfect procedural weapon for you, try bionic equipment. I guarantee it's good. So this is something I'm disappointed in so far because I haven't seen more of it. But the idea behind, you know, bionic equipment, attaching weapons to your body, like stuff that, you know, you don't even really use with your hands, it just attacks on its own. And you know what, I'm actually disappointed in Tyan for this. Why does he have those 2 sides on his back and nothing with his hands? Tyan, mate, for God's sake, you could have like a sword or something. Even if his hands were just equipped with something to defend himself with, that could probably improve his combat capability like tenfold. Now granted, I bet it takes concentration to use the bionic equipment, but he should be training himself to take advantage of the situation he's in, of the advantage he has right here. He should be training himself to use an additional weapon because he can become unstoppable. Even if he just held a weapon in his hands for the purposes of defense, right? 2-hander sword, block and attack. The things on your shoulders, gut the person and you're done. That's a quick and easy kill. Is it cheap? You fucking better believe it is, but that's the whole point. That's the advantage of such a weapon. It's a very cool concept, I like it very much. And I liked the Hook office in general. But that, ladies and gentlemen, was Canard. I guess this might be a bit shorter than some of you guys are used to in regards to a reading video, as it were, especially a Project Moon reading video, but I am dedicated to sticking to the individual rankings and reading the things there. If I'm right, if we look in... that one might be a bit smaller. And that'll be a bit... I'm going to stick to the individual rankings. It doesn't matter if it ends out with a smaller video. This keeps things clean. It keeps it categorized, right? I know exactly where I am in terms of the books I've done. I don't have to worry about trying to, you know, figure out what I have and haven't done. Like, the abnormalities were a fucking nightmare to categorize and stuff when I did the readings on those. This should be a lot more simpler, which I think will allow me to make the videos a lot easier and probably have more things to discuss, perhaps less relevant to the individual I'm focusing on at the time, but to just generally tangentially discuss things, because there is plenty to discuss in this setting. It's very interesting. It's a great world. I enjoy it very much. There is much to talk about, and I get why everyone's passionate about it. I'm passionate about it, and I don't even know all of it yet. I haven't even beaten the fucking game. No spoilers. I still got it in there. No spoilers. But I did want to take this video, actually. I made a post on the community page. I want to use this video as a chance to actually properly, publicly express it. To thank you all for the distinct lack of spoilers. There have been some. Luckily, I have a Ruina moderator to clean out any spoilery comments before I get to the comment section. So be advised, if you do post spoilers in the comments, your comment will just be removed. So you'd be wasting your own time if you did. I wouldn't recommend it. Think about what you're typing before you post it, but I do want to thank the vast majority of you. I want to say like 98 to 99% of you for not posting spoilers, because you guys have been great about it. I know it's a faff. I know it's a pain. Have to hold back on certain details, you know, like you want to talk about stuff but I'm not there yet, or you want to reference stuff and I'm not there yet. I get that it's frustrating, so I greatly appreciate everyone for holding their tongue. But I'm rambling now. Thank you so much for watching. Special thanks to Aris, Plutonium Pie, Dreamer Ghost, Leper Lullaby, K-Bub, Magic Cow, Peyton Barrett Hill, The Frostbite, Quantum Pizza, Monsoon, World, Jumping with Joy, Warmaster Oku, SCP-106A, Namad, and Kenny T800 for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching. I don't know how regularly these videos will go out. Maybe I'll try for like once a week or something, but no promises. Depends on progression, depends how busy I am. Work's gonna start picking up again soon, so I might not have as much time to work on videos as I like, which might affect upload schedules and stuff. It sucks, but there's not a lot I can do about it. I will do my best. I will do my best. But if you want me to not have to fucking work a day job to stop doing videos, to maybe advertise the channel to all your friends so that I don't have to have a day job anymore. That won't be coming anytime soon, I don't think. YouTube doesn't pay much, but it doesn't matter. I'm still happy to make the videos, and I'm still thanking you so much for watching. Whatever happens next time, and it will be Urban Myth next time. We'll be reading up on the Urban Myth, so... Svai Association? Oh, no, Streetlight. Streetlight are in there. That's gonna be tragic. Urban Legend is Svai, I think. I can't remember. But whoever's in there, and whatever happens, hope I see you there. Doodles. Goodbye.